welcome to Rambling Breed Podcast. I'm your host, Reese. If it's your first time joining or you've been listening this far, thank you so much. Just a reminder so you know where you're at. Rambling Breed Podcast is an insightful space dedicated to exploring the depths of our emotions and some psychology behind them, but most importantly, embracing and nurturing our most true and authentic selves. So if you want to better understand yourself or those around you, right here, with a little sprinkle of cussing, some dark humor, you'll find the support and encouragement you need to honor your true self and unlock the power to living a more fulfilling life. All right, let's go. Have you ever reacted to something in a way that surprised even you? Like maybe you're shutting down in conflict or feeling unworthy of love, or even constantly seeking validation. Many of those emotional responses come from childhood conditioning, but you better believe there's some great news. You can reprogram, aka reparent yourself, and break free from those patterns. What you can expect in this episode is to find out how childhood really does shape you into who you are. Many of us, actually, all of us are just big kids. Like at the end of the day, you're not an adult unless you went through childhood. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a rite of passage. Now, did we all mature? No. But we'll get into that. Get into recognizing and breaking those cycles, practical ways to rewire the emotional responses for a healthier mindset. First, we're going to get into is how childhood shapes those emotional responses and the science behind what's called emotional conditioning. Some of you have my sense of humor. I know you watch The Office, not the UK version. I'm so sorry. That I just couldn't get into. But the US version, Steve Carell, yeah, Rainn Wilson, yeah, that's The Office I'm referring to. There's an episode, and first of all, the show is brilliant for one. You can really learn a lot from The Office, as witty and maybe slapstick as it might be, is also very deep, which makes it easier to, digest what you're learning or what you could learn. But there's an episode, whatever, I'll insert a clip.
Hey, Dwight, do you want an Altoid?
What do you think?
In school, we learned about this scientist who trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell by feeding them whenever a bell rang. So for the past couple weeks, I've been conducting a similar experiment.
Dwight, want an Altoid?
Okay.
Altoid?
Sure.
And Dwight?
Midpoint? Yes.
What are you doing? What?
I don't know. Well, my mouth tastes so bad all of a sudden.
Raw.
That scene is literally Pavlov's theory. May not have heard of him. Have you? Maybe a little bit. Sound familiar? So Pavlov is a Russian physiologist. His name is actually Ivan Pavlov. He focused his research on classical conditioning, and this is a type of unconscious, like you just breathe, you blink your eyes, type of unconscious or automatic learning. And I'm going to insert a picture so you can see. What's going on here is that classical conditioning involves placing a neutral stimulus before a naturally recurring reflex, i.e. a trigger. Here we see the dog, right? Before the conditioning, the dog smells his food, he starts salivating. You blow this whistle, he's like, all right, what does it mean? Pavlov's theory. What happens is when you mix the food, which is going to trigger the salivation anyway, with a whistle in the background, it's really just background noise, right? That's why it's neutral. The unconditional response of the dog, okay, I'm still smelling this food, seeing this food, I'm still salivating for this food, and I hear a whistle, but not paying any attention. Then through conditioning, he can hear the whistle and know this is dinner time. Connect the dots. So just know that I'm super, super simplifying this, but I just really need you to understand how easily a pattern can be formed intentionally or not. So keep in mind, this goes so much deeper than this experiment I was just shared with you. And also, we are all just big trauma meat popsicles, and you actually are responsible figuring out and handling your triggers moving around in this society. It is no one else's responsibility to do that for you as an adult. Like, if you can drive, if you can drink, if you can buy a gun, if you can rent a car, you are also responsible for your own triggers around here. We touched on like what a trigger is, how that works, and how things happen and you just start responding and maybe you don't even know why. Now, let's look into some common emotional patterns that are usually formed in childhood. And yes, people, just a quick little hint. Most of everything is formed in your childhood. Okay? And that's why when you get to be an adult, you get older, you mature, you really do have to break cycles and break patterns and change your way of thinking. I digress. I need you to just know these things. So, this is not even funny. Why am I laughing? I'm sorry. Okay. So, some common emotional patterns in childhood, a fear of rejection and disappointing others, can look like people pleasing as an adult. Ever heard of it? Yeah, we talked about it already, babe. Go back there and press play. Hyper independence in childhood looks like an adult who has difficulty asking for help. They're always trying to do it all. This is also called high functioning codependency. And when I'm hearing codependent, usually I'm thinking, oh, I need this, I need this. What you may need is not necessarily the help. You need to be in control. You need to feel like everything falls on you. You need that responsibility. So understand what the need is before you think you're not codependent, because more of us are than we're not. This is how human nature works. We're in villages, we're communal, community, a society. Okay, so yes, there's a little bit codependency going on. Another emotional pattern that can form in childhood is inconsistent parenting turns into an adult who may get anxious or find it difficult to trust people. For me, in my household, it was kind of like, I never know what side I'm gonna get today, so you gotta walk on these eggshells. You better just, stand clear so you can register what's going on here and get in where you fit in, because you don't want to fuck up and step on a landmine. Now your whole day is down the drain. Now as an adult, I realized that my anxiety and my difficulty in trusting people is because I want to control the outcome. I want to know, like, what is this going to come down to? And that's just not how life works. You have to be able to trust people. And we'll touch on trust, whole nother episode. Ultimately, this led to me and my want to always be in control, because if I lose control, if you know SZA, you know what I'm talking. Oh my God. I always want to be in control because I do fear the unknown more. If I know the problem, I can figure it out. But if I don't know, that's not going to sit well for me. It's a sick, vicious cycle. I'm not going to lie to you. Another emotional pattern formed in childhood, emotional suppression, and just a lack of getting your feelings validated. As a child, when you're looking to your caretaker who has to fill all these roles, here's the thing. To me, being a parent requires a lot of responsibility. It's a job. People try to act like, oh, you just pop the kid out and then, things go together. Maybe they do, sometimes they don't. It depends. There's no cookie cutter way, but I'm not going to sit up here and say that there's no right way and a wrong way. There's more than one way, but there are right ways and wrong ways. Okay? So, for the kids who are struggling to get their feelings validated at home and suppressing those emotions, as an adult, they're now struggling with self-worth and expressing their needs and wants. Because why would they? When they did it when they were kids, no one ever acknowledged it. No one ever validated it. Like, okay, you didn't listen to me, but I understand. Like, you're sad now because you're grounded, or because you got spanked. Like, you can do both. You can discipline your kid, and you can also validate their feelings and their concerns. Like, am I tripping? No, you could do both. So for me, that turned into passive aggressive. It turned into nasty nice, and it turned into just petty. Because now it's like, when somebody does try to validate my emotions or something, it's almost like, what is that? Is this sincere? Or is it a joke? Because in my household, it wasn't always easy to tell. So maybe that's where, this dark humor and stuff that I have, which I like it. But maybe I like it because that's what I'm used to, like, it's a lot of backhanded, compliment, undersided shit going on. But it's like, ultimately, as a kid, you could have just validated some things. You could have just built the child up. I remember in a therapy session, my therapist, we were going over something. I don't know, it took years, right? We were going over something, and it was basically like, when the kid, this little girl right here, can I point to her right there? I have her here because she's just this cute little girl, right? She got her little beret. She got rings on her little finger. Like, okay, she's just so cute. Got her hair done. But when I seen her, I was like, yo, first of all, you don't know if she crying or laughing under there. You don't know. So whatever you need to be, it's going to be. But it reminded me of being a little girl. How old is this kid? She's less 10 or under something, It reminded me of like the times when you just got your hair done, or you got your new little jewelry, or you got your new little shoes, whatever. You're proud, you like it, you want people to see whatever. And then, or maybe you're extra happy right now because you're excited, right? And then people will be like, oh, you think you cute. But it's like, you ask me that, should I not? Or like, now think as a kid, like, and then, you're trying to decipher tones and all these things as a child. Like, constantly hearing that. And also understand, people, when we're talking about childhood, we're not just talking about your parents. We're talking about you going through life, going through your childhood. And childhood for me, I'm talking about everything 18 and below. Okay, 17 and below. You're right. 17 and below. So, you just a kid in this world, and you got people close to you who just want to like, hold up. Like, don't go around here thinking you cute and thinking this, that, and the third, when it's like, what we talked about in therapy was, that never needs to come from inside the home, because the world is going to humble you. Believe me, when you go out this door and you walk to the bus stop to get on your bus, baby, the world going to let you know, you know what you think, who you think you are. And it's like, damn, if I'm hearing it in the house, out the house, who do I think I am? Do I think I'm cute? Hell, I don't know. I guess I don't. So you know what this leads to? In general, that type of lack of validation and of those emotions leads to you struggling with self-worth and expressing how you do feel. Because now you're always questioning it. Because when I say how I feel, it's just like in one ear out the other, or like falls on deaf ears type of thing, or it's never addressed. So why even say how I feel? Why even express anything at all? Just keep it up in the air. Mm-hmm. To tie into this, also think about when you're feeling unheard or misunderstood as a kid, because you're having these big emotions, you're having these big feelings. You don't know the terms and the phrases for these. Some of these things, self-care, I didn't even know this was a thing till I was like grown, like in my 20s. Self-care just sounded selfish, because who are you caring about yourself? What? All these people out here, all this shit going on, and you worried about you and how you feel? What the hell? Like, that's so selfish of you. What? But now, if I don't care about myself, if I don't check in on me, who the hell will? Who the hell will? You gotta check in with yourself, honey. So, also, if you're growing up and you're feeling misunderstood or you're feeling unheard, this turns into an adult who could possibly develop a fear of just being assertive because of fear or just a lack of it. Either when you were assertive, you got chopped down, shut up, like, what are you talking about? You're ungrateful. So, of course, so you would fear sharing how you felt. You would fear somebody just telling you how you feel and being misunderstood. And now that's a problem, instead of a conversation being had to get to the root cause, to ask the child to explain more, for you, an adult dealing with this child, to ask probing questions, to understand what the child means, because they have this limited frame of reference. They've only been here 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of life compared to your 25, 30, 45, 70. What the hell? So, yeah, for myself, that's something I struggle with, not feeling seen and heard as an adult to this day. I'm on the work meetings or in a conversation with my friends or whatever, and I want to say something, but like I'm waiting for like quiet. I'm waiting for a conversation to stop, and then I can interject with my thought I had 10 minutes ago. No. So what that turned into was me saying, oh, excuse me, sorry, sorry. I say so much sorry. I know I do. And as soon as I hear sorry come out, I'm like, no, I'm not, for real. I say sorry sometimes as a filler, but because I don't really be sorry. I'm cutting it. But anyway. Oh, Lord. Now, me growing up in a military household come with its own, it's like a whole ecosystem of its own, okay? Because that military, that army life, these soldiers, they don't just come home and turn that off. Most of them, not the good ones. Like, it's ingrained into them. That's what all the boot camp and all the training, that's what all this is, okay? They are changing their mindsets on things, right? And then guess what? The soldier goes home, and guess who else gets trained and ingrained in this way of thinking, this way of life? Your family, your children. Yes, my mother was in the army. Yes. I was raised in an army household. And even outside of that, my grandmother was a teacher, her mother was a teacher, and the women in my family, they're strong. They are very much authoritarian. Authoritarian? That sounds crazy. They have authority, and they demand authority, and they demand respect. They don't give a damn who you are, how old you are, where you came from. But how that looked as a child, it was like, that's scary. Because, again, pins and needles ain't no, You mess up over here, you had to pay for that. Okay, well, jeez, I just sit right here. So in a childhood where it could be overly strict parenting or these high expectations and this high critique on the children for everything that's going on, it could possibly turn the adult into someone who has a fear of failure, a lot of self-criticism, and this person who's chasing perfection. And even though, there's no such thing as perfect, I hear this, I'm trying to force myself to believe that. Because I do, but I don't. Like, I know it, but I also don't believe it. It's a real conflict and a struggle, like, in my brain all the time. For me to just leave something, like, half-assed, it's going to bother me. But it's going to take away time from doing something more important because I'm trying to get something perfectly done. Chasing perfection is very much a huge time waster because as we can see today, you don't need to be perfect out here. Look at the news. Say what you want, do what you want. Like, one thing, mediocrity, you can really, I think that was the biggest scam growing up, is thinking that you have to be top, you have to be here, everything gotta be the best of all. And the whole thing about it is, you really don't. You really could be a good 45%, 65%, depending what it is, and you do pretty well. So can you just imagine putting in all this effort to make something perfect that really it wasn't necessary and could have been spent on something else, something more important to you or to the goal or to the team or to the family, whatever. That's just a thing that I think about sometimes. Maybe something I should think about more when I'm fixating on something. So with the whole perfectionism thing, right? No one is more critical of you than you are. Most of us, not all of us. And for those of us who think we're perfectionists or whatever, you feel like you're never doing enough. You feel like you constantly have to be in motion. You gotta grind, you gotta work hard, you gotta go, get it, climb. For me, it's like I'll think about doing something, and then it's just like, if I'm not gonna do it perfect, I don't even want to fuck with it at all. Like, because if I don't have the time to go into the background and start from the bottom and figure it out all the way, I'm just gonna leave it alone. And then, you know what? I birthed a whole podcast, and I don't have a clue about, to this day. I know a bit more about, what's going on around here than I did. And, I hope you can see and hear it's getting better, 1% increments. But me even coming here and starting this whole situation was just something for this year, 2025. I wanted to just push myself to launch. Stop waiting to get to the 100% perfection before you start something, because most of what you're learning is what's going to make it even better. And this ain't about podcast, this is about life. And just most importantly, perfect isn't real. It's not the same thing as striving for excellence. Striving for excellence will have you working towards something and doing that 1%, getting better and better and better and better. But you're in forward motion. And it doesn't even mean you're constantly going, but it just means you were here one day, now you're here, then you're there. Like, you're making progress. And it could be slower because you're striving, and you could be striding, right? You're not running yourself into the hole. You're not like going to break yourself down. Take your time. What's the rush? My dog. What? Joking. Oh, Lord. Yeah. To me, striving for excellence is more attainable goal, because you can always get better. You can always strive to get better, strive to excel in something, right? And you don't have to even get perfect to necessarily get to where you want to be. Keep that in mind as well. And the book I told you about, Boundary Boss, if anybody has read it or they started reading it, whatever, or if you just want to know a bit more about it before you do start, got you too. In the book, the author, she mentions that perfectionism is often rooted in that high functioning codependency. Remember, I talked about this earlier, where you're feeling overly responsible for other people's emotions and their feelings, i.e., taking the lead on things that are affecting them in their life and bailing them out and trying to console every emotion that they ever have. And I'm not talking about children. I'm talking about an adult to an adult in these codependent relationships, this high functioning codependency. And what happens is, first of all, I am that. Someone might come to me with a problem, they just want to vent. And I'm hearing them over here. Then over here, in my head, I'm got bullets going. I got, okay, if they do this, that will solve that. And then just move that this way, and then they can start doing that. Now, I have just ingested the whole problem, the drama, whatever, and spitting out. First of all, I am not a chat GPT, baby. I am not the assistant. I am just the friend or the family member or the daughter. I should just be able to listen. And then, here's a thought. Something else I learned. Let people vent to you without you thinking, one, they're telling you this because they want you to fix it. Even if that's the role you created in their life, stop doing that. Let them say, hey, do you think you could help me? Hey, how do you think? Let them ask you for your opinion before you just go blurting it out. Actually, for me, as I got older, it got harder to talk to my mom about certain things because I just want to vent to her. And she, guess what, is doing? She listening and she's solving it. But I just want to be consoled. Like, I just want you to know this is how I feel about whatever. And yeah, it might be something I might come back and like want her to help me fix or whatever like that. But sometimes I just want to know, like, that's human shit. Like, this is normal life stuff. It's okay. It's not okay. It's that. Tell me, like, give me some feedback on it without trying to solve it for me. Me, I like to solve problems. I'm a problem solver, which is why I jump in the role of solving other people's problems. And I got burnt out. Because, you know what? That's not my job. That's not my life. That's a part of life in general. So when you do jump into bailing these people out of every little conflict and issue and situation they might find themselves in, especially if they're recurrent patterns for them and you're just always here, oh, let me get you, I got you, throwing out the life raft. So what's actually happening is you're robbing them of the dignity of even thinking that, oh, they can't figure this out, let me just jump in there and do it for them. And you're also robbing them of like these important life lessons. Epiphany. Maybe that's why the same issue and pattern keeps occurring and occurring and occurring, because the person whose problem it is not the one coming up with the solutions. So why wouldn't it keep happening? Because every time it gets to this point, here comes somebody come to bail them out, you know? And it's not fair. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. So stop that. We've gone through this list of common emotional patterns and how that looks as an adult. Now is probably a good time for you to think about some strong emotional reactions that you have and the connection to your childhood, where that really came from. Step 1 is to identify the pattern. Recognize those common triggers and emotional habits. Like for me, for instance, one of mine is if someone starts yelling at me, instantly, I can't even hear anything at all. It's almost like I'm deaf at that point because I'm tuning it right out. I take it personally because for so long, I personally avoided landmines and walked on eggshells and tiptoed around people and topics and things and places and, things like that. So I believe that that's how everyone operated, just on pins and needles at all times when you're anxious and you're in a state of like, oh, which way do I go? But, the real world let me know, no, everybody not anxious. And some people are very direct and very matter of fact. And you know me, I'm trying to get over there. I'm trying to see what that might be like, yeah. So all that tiptoeing around those landmines and stuff really turned me very calculated and methodical. Like I move very strategically. I also don't do like the last minute plans and invites and things like that like all the time. I try to sprinkle a little bit of that in there if I want to. One thing about it is if I do that and something happens, like let's just say anything could happen. And I'm like, oh, that's a sign. Like, that's a sign. I'm not supposed to be there. I'm not going. Bitch, cancel it. I'm not going. Because if I was supposed to be there, I would be there and it would work out. This is how I live my life. Things that are meant for me are always going to be for me, for one. So the only competition for me over here is her. And if there are last minute requests being made of me, or I'm not able to analyze like I feel comfortable doing and what makes me comfortable, it's just gonna be enough, because I'm not gonna feel uncomfortable about nothing. So I just won't go. Literally, I don't care what it is, like, because it's just, and maybe I shouldn't have been watching Final Destination. When that shit start to go in, first of all, what is happening? Yeah, maybe it was a little too much Final Destination, a little too much Wishmaster, a little, some shit I didn't have no business watching has now affected me to this day. Not doing it. Another trigger for me is someone, when I'm explaining something to you or I'm talking to you, and yeah, my voice might be getting higher or I'm not laughing or whatever, but if you tell me to calm down, baby, oh, baby, you should have just walked off, or you should have just hung up, or like, cause now, if you're telling me to calm down, or you're telling me how you think I feel, you're not asking me, diabolical. Because now, I got to show you how uncalm I am, because I wasn't uncalm at first. I was very calm. Now that you're telling me to calm down, okay. See, that's that petty passive shit. I'm learning, y'all. I'm growing. I'm working on it. The first step is acknowledging. Okay. So on that note, when I do get upset, I tend to shut down. I don't really address it in the moment. I need to take a minute to chill, because if we start going to tit for tat, this ain't gonna go nowhere, because I'm gonna have to stand on it 10 toes about it, and I'll be wrong, and I'll be standing right there until I'm ready to until I'm ready to apologize, if need be. You understand? But I do know that passive aggressiveness, that is not very cash money of me, and I do humbly apologize to myself. However, I do need to let the people know that it's a learned behavior and it's generational around here, okay? And I'm working on breaking these generational curses, because no, we shouldn't have to be passive aggressive. Like, if something's bothering you, say it. Don't like beat around the bush. You know, you slamming doors and stuff, and somebody said, "What's wrong with you?" Nothing. Well, what? Huh? Math ain't math. So let's just be so fucking for real right now and understand and realize that anything can be reframed. And if you need a reminder of that and what that might look like, again, I implore you to look at the news. Just turn on 20 minutes. Flip through a few stations or check your TikTok or Instagram, whatever, wherever you get your daily news, and just see how one thing can just be reframed in so many ways. Now come back over here and realize that, yes, anything can be reframed, but what's most important is the intention and the conscious commitment to see things differently than you have. So when you're trying to reframe like childhood experiences and things that have been done to you and certain patterns that you believe in, things like that, try shifting the perspective. Try, instead of thinking, oh, I'm just bad at handling conflict, think of, like, I was never taught healthy conflict resolution, but I can learn now. Even shifting the narrative from like, oh, this is just who I am. Another pet peeve, because that is crazy. When, pause this, for grown adults who, for the most case, you know, have worked anywhere, have just been alive on this earth, just owning a phone, you get an upgrade, hell, every 90 days, almost 60 days. So for someone to just sit there and say, that's just who I am, I've always been this way, right, and it's problematic. Maybe the people around you don't really say nothing, but it's not really for them to say either, right? Like, you should want to grow. You should want to, I don't know. I don't want to project. I really don't want to project. Maybe some people are just good where they're at. And being in an information age, and for someone to think, this is just always who I've been, this is who I am, it just blows my mind, because you could be better. Like, when I hear that sometimes, I'll be like, and you're proud of that. I'm proud. But reframe from someone who wants to change, someone who acknowledges that they could be doing something differently, or that this is a harmful behavior to have, or a harmful view, because they're just shut in and they have no depth or perception of other things outside of this little, clan. So shift the narrative from, this is just who I am, to, no, this is a learned response, and I can change this. Like I'm gonna always say, I just want people to be their best version of themselves. It don't have to be we agree on everything, but I do know everyone could be doing better than what they are, myself included. That's it. I just want people to be great. As you're reframing the experience, be mindful and give yourself grace, because you've done these things. You've done the things that you've done in the past. You've had these thought processes and your views on the world because you needed to adapt to a situation in order to survive. This is common human behavior. I don't care if you live in the Beverly Hills mansion, and I don't care if you live in a project somewhere or the suburbs in between. Don't give a shit. It's not about that. You could take culture, you could take demographic, you could take economic status out of it. All what it boils down to, and what we all have in common, is that we did what we had to do in order to survive. This is life. Every day we get up, we're just trying to survive. So, again, me as an army brat, if you don't know, that's what they call army children. I went to so many schools. I had so many friends. I went to so many different babysitters' houses. I'm always in this constant cycle of change. Switch it up. Here we go. Start over, restart. But the thing is, I'm not the same age when this is happening. We're not, it's not this ain't The Sims. We're not rebooting. This is actually, you're still growing and these patterns are forming. This is becoming you now. A lot of how I had to operate as a child is ingrained. And it's probably going to be ingrained forever. So what I used to do, like trying to survive in these situations, I never really learned how to make these long-term, genuine connections, because for what? Once the pattern clicked in my head, like I ain't gonna be here long. Like, I don't gotta remember the names and like a face, yeah, but the names and the backstory and all, I ain't gonna be here next year, so it don't really matter. Like I'm on the road, I never really got a chance to like settle in when I'm, trying to adjust and settle in and understand. For just going to the different schools, can you imagine the counties have different curriculums and what they want to teach? Can you imagine the different states and the different countries? Like I was going to school in South Korea for a little bit, for about a semester before we ended up leaving. But can you imagine, like, do you really think I'm learning in that American school on base anything similar to what is being taught over here? Because guess what? I'm not. No, we're not talking about, I don't know. I think I came to Virginia. There was someone like tobacco trade and all this shit. Yeah, so we're on the road. I'm never really getting a true chance to like settle in and adjust to these kids and this school system and how they dress over here. Like even the culture of the different neighborhoods and stuff. Like it's just a new language, new time zones, all the things. And I'm learning that I just need to fit in here and blend in. I don't need to stand out. That's problematic. Getting older and getting help and talking it out, writing it out. But I continued to do this until I finally took my power back and realized that standing out is actually the most beautiful thing about you. What did Aubrey Graham say?
I'm here for a good time, not a long time,
So at the time, you're literally just adapting to your situation and your circumstances for what they are. Now those learned behaviors and experiences no longer serve you, and they've become maladaptive. Step number 3 of breaking negative emotional cycles is to create a new response. Thanks to the neuroplasticity of our brains, it's never too late to change, truly. The simplest way to understand neuroplasticity is essentially your brain just forming new patterns. So you're not stuck with the emotional patterns that you've inherited from your childhood. Truly, you can heal, and know that healing from your childhood doesn't mean you're blaming anybody for anything, right? None of this. Whenever I'm talking, I'm not here to blame. I'm here to rectify a situation and course correct myself and anyone else who thinks that might help them. It's about reclaiming your emotional well-being for your future self. Some techniques that I've learned and that I've also used personally to rewire these emotional reactions include mindfulness and just pausing before I react. Because I may have said it before, but I'm a Gemini. Hold up, because I know y'all like the tussle when you're a Gemini, but just know I'm very self-aware. So, a lot of duality going on. Is this going to be a logical or emotional reaction? Literally in my head, if I can just get like the 30 seconds to think about it, I'm going to take it. Because if I don't think, probably I'm going to go more towards emotional. Just because you want you want that instant reaction. That's what I'm going to give. That's what you're going to get from me, baby, because I'm a Gemini, so I got both, you know? And another helpful technique in rewiring these patterns is just practicing these different responses in low stress situations. So just think of like you're ordering your food, they get it wrong, or you're ordering your food, the waitress trying to hear you in the middle of this crowded restaurant, and you're over here mumbling to the menu. She can't understand. Like, speak up for yourself. This person's literally here to serve you. Like, they're called a servant, okay? She cannot do her job if you can't even speak up for yourself and say what you want. So, you know, that's a low stress situation. Some people just have anxiety, even sharing details that you're paying someone to help you with. You know what I mean? You gotta start somewhere, baby. You got to start somewhere. Now you're going to be moving forward. You have this self-awareness and some self-compassion, right? Along the way, you have to keep some grace for yourself. This is all new to you. You weren't raised this way. This is why you're reparenting yourself, right? You don't have the historical data to lean on. No, you literally have to break the cycles and change the patterns if that's really what you want to do. So you have to unlearn the previous emotional conditioning processes that you've had in place and implement some new ones. Maybe some things will work for you, maybe they won't. But it's normal for it to feel a little bit different, to feel awkward, to feel anxious. All these things are perfectly normal when you are going through change. A few tools I would suggest to you in an effort to support your change would just be to track these changes in this emotional growth by journaling. Journal about your triggers, journal about your reaction to the triggers, journal about what it was like, what you're aiming for, and the in-between. That way you can literally stop bleeding onto people who never even hurt you, which for me, I used to do that all the time. I don't just want no. You're crashing out on people because you are this hurt little kid, and this person never did nothing to you, and you're just like, ah. Some other tools, I'm always going to advocate for therapy and do that inner child work, because the inner child is who you're here to reparent. So obviously you should get in tune with that, and then just practice again the self-compassion to yourself. You weren't supposed to know these things. You were a kid. Like, you're not parenting yourself out the womb. Like, that's not how this works. You've never been here. And we're not talking reincarnation. In that moment, your brand spanking new to the world. Now let's learn to recognize the childhood conditioning and how it can actually shape us, shape our emotional responses. And by understanding the concept of reparenting you can start healing those wounds and those maladaptive behaviors that you learned when you were just a wee thing. So before we get into reparenting, you might be wondering, who or what are we reparenting because I'm grown? And I just want to say, calm down, La Mama. Calm down. We never truly outgrow our inner child. So sometimes your inner child will come out maybe through an unexpected surge of emotion from somewhere deeply rooted in your past, and you're shocked at yourself. Like, what was that? You know, that's suspicious. But according to positive psychology, they're all psychologists and therapists over there. They agree that this experience represents an integral part of all of our psyche, shaped during our formative years and yearning for recognition, expression, and just acceptance. And that part of ourself is what is called the inner child. When you nurture and acknowledge your inner child, it brings out so much creativity, inspiration, and joy. However, when it's neglected and wounded, it can leave us feeling disconnected and unfulfilled. It plays out to different patterns that are familiar to our old insecure attachment dynamics that we had long ago with our childhood caregiver. So the actual definition of reparenting comes from a psychologist. Her name is Lucia Capitone. Sorry. But she stated that reparenting is a transformative method for healing the wounds caused by insecure attachments to our childhood caregivers. By nurturing and validating this vulnerable aspect of ourselves, we can actually provide it with love and protection it may have lacked in childhood. So, for example, in the book that I've told you about, Boundary Boss, she's also a psychotherapist. She talked about a patient who was seeing her now as a young adult. They're going in her childhood, and she's telling her in her household of 10 people, they didn't even have their own toothbrush, and that they would just go in the bathroom. There's a basket of toothbrushes, and you just grab a dry one and brush your teeth. So as the girl got older, it was never like, oh, that's neglect. Like, she's not thinking that. She's just thinking, that's nasty. Like, they're cool with that, but I just want my own toothbrush. So that she made it a goal for herself. Go read the book if you want to know how that worked out. But she didn't even think it was anything wrong with that. That's just an example. Most importantly, reparenting allows us to break the cycle of seeking external validation, that we can turn within and put the trust into ourselves and our own resilience, while simultaneously nurturing healthier and more intimate relationships with others. So just a few simple ways that you can practice reparenting daily if you should need to. When you are having self-talk, talk to yourself like you would a child that you cared about and you actually loved. And maybe you're not going to do this how you were shown love if that's not working for you. If you see now how you were talked to doesn't work for you, why would you then turn around, and talk to yourself that way? Do what feels right for you. Do what feels good for you. Good to you also. Another simple tip is just to engage in activities that bring you joy and playfulness. Hello, I be painting. That's my girl right there, the ballerina. I'm doing games. I just go watch a movie and be like, oh, yeah. Like, it's for a little read. Just do things that bring you joy, and that you don't have to be the super serious micromanager, take the hat off, take the cape off. So therefore, make sure that you're meeting the basic needs, like getting rest and nourishing yourself and self-care, y'all. Sometimes when people get depressed, it's hard to even do just regular, what you think are regular daily functions. Like, some people may not have showered in days, and may not have brushed their hair in weeks. Like, things that you just think is so normal and just goes hand in hand. When you're not there, and if you don't want to be here, the last thing you're thinking about is a shower or making the bed or washing the dishes. Like, that's real shit. And anybody who's dealing with that, I really hope that you have people in your life you can reach out to, or you're getting some type of help, whether you're online looking for, something. And if you need help finding help, I will help you find help, because that's a lonely place to be. The ultimate goal of you reparenting yourself is actually going back to the little kid that you were. And like, just being honest, you are going to reparent yourself to be the parent that you needed growing up. You have your own life now. You may have your own kids, your own family, spouse, whatever you have going on, but you're being intentional with helping yourself. And all that you might want to do for somebody else and help them, and how you feel is selfish, is really not. Because if you're not good, you can't even make sure other people are good. So even still, you gotta help yourself first, babe. Another thing that I find reparenting has helped me with personally is realize that I don't think you have so much understanding as a child as to how people run their household and what works for them, right? You're just in emotions. So as an adult, going back and looking at it, I've realized that some people are raised on survival and some people are raised on love. So the people who are raised in love, to me, in my eyes, is like, oh, it's this compassionate, patient parents. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. I still love you. I still care. They're expressing this, like, they're literally saying it, and they're showing it in ways to let it sink in. Like, I do still love you. I do still care. And I'll just show you again, because I realize you're a child. This is your first time here. You're picking things up, like, as you see them. Even if I'm saying one thing but I'm doing something else, this is confusing to a child. When I'm thinking raised with love, I'm thinking Miss Honey from Matilda. Okay, like, oh, okay. Other households, you may be raised in survival mode, where it's like you're constantly, you the child, you're having to make decisions with the limited amount of information that you have from a very young age. Like, maybe you're the latchkey kid. You come home, you're home by yourself after school till whenever o'clock. Maybe you're making dinner for your siblings till whenever o'clock, and somebody shows up. Maybe nobody shows up. Maybe you have to do your own homework. Nobody's checking it. Maybe that's opposite sides of the spectrum. So there's obviously shit in between, right? When you go back and reparent yourself, give yourself the parent who would have best served you, because now you are the parent. So we went through a lot. We drove down memory lane. Now we're coming back up to speed. 2025. Okay. I want to give you 4 practical tips to reparenting yourself. You can apply these in any order. There's no right or wrong. Take what resonates and leave the rest. So the first step in this is the self-awareness and recognizing your inner child needs. Learn to identify those emotional wounds and your triggers. Next, have self-compassion, grace, heal the inner critic. My type A people, yeah. Replace the judgment, replace the self-judgment with kindness. Instead of like, oh, I always mess up, oh, I always get this wrong, I'm always doing this. Just say like, hey, I'm trying, I'm learning. It's new for me. I'm going to make mistakes, and I gotta be okay with it. You have to be okay. Like, take that burden off yourself. Take the pressure off yourself. Release the emotional burden. The third thing would be just the emotional regulation of it all and learning to soothe yourself. Self-soothing without self-harming. We're not trading, negative for negative. We're trading negative for positive. And I'm not here to judge nobody's life. But we're trying to form healthier habits. So I wouldn't dare sit here and tell you to, like, yeah, when you're working on this, just grab that bottle of Jack, when you're going down memory lane. Absolutely not. I recommend you don't do that. I highly, highly recommend you don't. A couple suggestions of some healthier self-soothing techniques and how to manage those emotions would be something that I do. Actually, I practice deep breathing exercises. It makes such a world of a difference. Like, you're breathing unconsciously, right? Like, you're just used to breathing. But when you actually focus on that, there's a lot of control and a lot of power in that. Get with it. Get with it. Just practicing being more mindful. Being mindful also means practicing gratitude. You're happy for the things that you do have. Even if you want other things, you still have to be grateful for what you have now and where you're at. So practicing gratitude and positive affirmations. Share some of those with you before also. And then just recognizing when you need comfort. Okay? And give yourself the permission to rest. So you're not fucking Inspector Gadget, go gadget out here. Sit down. And sometimes I tell myself and others, find something safe to do. Because that phrase applies under so many different circumstances. But in this instance, find something safe to do before you burn yourself out. Go have a seat. Go take a nap. Go for a drive. Go for a walk. Just chill. Decompress. I actually, in my new schedule that I made for myself, I actually blocked out 30 minutes after work whenever I get off, because I ain't always the same time. But for 30 minutes, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not scrolling on anything. I'm literally here and I'm brain dumping, which is it's like journaling, literally just dumping things out your brain. And I'm just getting some yoga, some breathing, just chill and decompress from the day. Super helpful. Super, super helpful. And the last piece of reparenting yourself would just be, again, setting boundaries. I don't know. Like, have I ever said that? Yeah, I have. I'll probably say it every episode. Like, it's just that important. It's such an important thing to do. And it comes up in so many areas of your life. So, yeah, get used to it. And set those boundaries up and protect your emotional well-being while you're going back and forth down this, highway to the past and back to the present. And then to the future. Boundaries are helpful when you're reparenting yourself because you're creating this safe space for yourself. Like, if you weren't allowed to say no as a child, practice honoring your own limits now. Like, you can say no, you can say yes, you can do this, you can do that. Like, just practice it. If we practice these things and test your own boundaries and limits and find them and define them, it's your life. Okay, so we have made it to the end of another episode. Just a little recap of some key takeaways from what we've learned today. Childhood conditioning does shape our emotional habits, but they can be unlearned. It's never too late to develop healthier emotional responses through reparenting by giving yourself what you needed in childhood. And then finally, recognizing and reframing these emotional patterns is the first step towards change. Because with awareness and practicing small, intentional actions, you can create these healthier responses. Now, this week, I do challenge you to just pay attention to just one emotional reaction and just ask yourself, like, what would I tell my younger self in this moment? Practice responding to yourself in kindness and care, and just go from there. The tiniest little steps make such a huge difference. And you'll turn around and be like, damn, yeah. I used to do that. and now I don't. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. We discussed how to reparent yourself from childhood conditioning and rewiring those emotional patterns. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tune in, follow. Don't forget to like, share, leave a comment. But most importantly, just know that you're not defined by your past at all. And healing takes time, but it can be done. And every small step you take to change your emotional patterns is a step towards freedom. All right. Bye.